The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's September the 30th, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. Joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by Caneswear, your ultimate destination for all of your Miami Hurricane shopping needs. Caneswear at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or Caneswear.com has everything that the Canes fan could possibly want. We'll be talking more about Caneswear later in the show. But first, Matt, we got to dive right into Friday night's game against Virginia Tech. We've had a weekend now to reflect on it, which I think is always a good thing, especially a game like that came with so many plot twists and so many emotions. And, the first thing I want to say is that I have looked at that final play from every which angle possible that's available, and there is no doubt in my mind that the ACC Replay Center made the right decision and came up with the right call. And thank God they did, because, that was a season-shaping moment. Had Miami lost that game, it would have been a total game changer and potentially a total game changer and put enormous pressure on the rest of the season. Not that that doesn't already exist, and you don't obviously want to win every game, but big difference for a Miami team that's still ranked number 8 in the AP poll and coaches poll, and maybe being down like 12, 13, 14, having lost that game. And, you still got teams like, Clemson and Duke, and obviously Louisville, and all these teams in the ACC battling for 2 spots in Charlotte. And a loss to Virginia Tech would have been something that Miami would have been fighting to overcome the rest of the way. So I'm glad it worked out the way it did. I'm glad that even though they took a lawful long time, that they made the right decision. I know people in Blacksburg are not happy about it, and I understand that. But when you look at the whole picture and how there was never conclusive evidence that ball was caught, I think they made the only decision that they could have made, and the mistake was on the original official on the back line there that called it a touchdown without conclusive evidence that the ball had been caught. He should have made the other call and let them review replay, and if they needed to overturn it the other way. It would have been a lot more seamless, so to speak, than it ended up being. But Matt, there's so many things coming out of that game that we can talk about. I'll just throw out a couple, and then I want to get your thoughts on the game. I thought Miami got a little out-efforted in that game, particularly at the line of scrimmage. It looked to me like Miami's bigs were really suffering with the heat and might not have hydrated. And I'm going to preface this by saying this is a supposition. Nobody has said a word on this. There's no concrete proof of it. But it looked to me like they did not hydrate, kind of took for granted that they were ready for the heat, and did not hydrate for the game the way they needed to in those conditions, which were extremely humid as a byproduct of the hurricane that had passed by Florida a day earlier, left a lot of humidity. And it was different than what they practice in every day. And now that should have been a massive home field advantage for Miami. And it wasn't. That, to me, that was the most shocking thing of all, that, Virginia Tech, they took some dives and bought themselves some time to catch their breath and things like that. But still, that humidity should have been a massive home field advantage. I didn't think it was, because I thought Miami's bigs were really struggling. And, you look at all the guys that they picked up in the transfer portal. Simeon Barrow, very minimal impact on that game. Tyler Barron, who had been playing so well as a Hurricane, minimal impact on that game. You're missing Ruben Bain, who was really badly missed, I thought, on Friday night. And then on the flip side, Jalen Rivers, although I didn't think the offensive line guys were as affected as the defensive line guys. But, just my thoughts. That's what I'm seeing. I just thought really impacted Miami's level of play in that game, which is the opposite of what it should have done. It should have been a huge advantage for the Hurricanes, and a lot of credit to Virginia Tech. They were in it to win it, and they were fully invested, and they came down with a great game plan. Their coaching staff obviously had worked very hard on that game all through the offseason, as you would expect, their first big conference game of the year. And Virginia Tech gave Miami all that it could handle, and a lot of credit to those guys. But at the end of the day, Matt, 5-0 is 5-0. Miami gets ready to jump on a plane on Thursday. They're going to Cal. College game day will be awaiting them there, which will give them a national stage this weekend. And I guess it's all good.
I mean, big picture, this is, in my opinion, the best thing that could have happened to Miami. It's not like this has never happened to championship Miami teams. They always have close calls once in a while. It was a great game. And you know what? It's a wake-up call for Miami. Now, a couple things I'll point out, okay? Section 4, Article 1 of the NCAA rulebook, you know, some fans get confused, and not real fans, but some just general fans get confused about the difference. A catch in the NFL, okay, is a lot different than a catch in college football. They're totally different animals, okay? Section 4, Article 1 for possession and a touchdown in a football game in the NCAA is, quote, the ball is in player possession when a player has the ball firmly in his grasp by holding or controlling it while contacting the ground inbounds, okay? Now, the catch would be right when he first went up. That's the only time he had possession, right? Ball's in his hands. You could freeze frame it right there. Foot's on the ground, but it's hard to see on the replay. It's just hard to see. There's a reason it took 7 minutes for the refs to make a decision, because technically, if you can't tell for sure, 100% for sure, 100% for sure, by the rule, you're not allowed to overturn it. Now, in my opinion, it was not a catch, but the ref should have ruled it not a catch in the beginning. Then it's definitely not a catch. Once he ruled it a catch, to me, by the letter of the law, it's really hard to overturn it based on what we saw. And that's why they wound up saying, well, we saw that he had it here and had a foot down, so we can't say that that wasn't the catch. So they came up with this guy being out of bounds touching it, which I honestly, you know, I guess I have to watch it more. I didn't really note that, where it would, you know, when he's up here, the guy's not touching the ball. I don't understand it, whatever. But like, if that's the rule they're going to use, just have a Miami player in every part of the end zone on every area on the next Hail Mary and just touch the guy as he's coming down with the ball. And then we don't have to worry about it anymore. Anyway, I understand why Virginia Tech fans are upset about it, but you know what? It shouldn't have been ruled a catch in the first place. Okay, that's the truth. It wasn't a catch. I don't think he had the ball long enough to rule it a catch. And just because the replay doesn't show enough that you should overturn it, like, it wasn't a catch, man. Like, I don't think it was a catch, in my opinion. Anyway, the biggest problem I had with that game, and you pointed to it, but you didn't say why. This is the kind of game that Miami should be built for. Cold weather team coming into a hot, humid environment. You go fast on offense, man. You wear the F out of that team. Miami couldn't do it because Miami's not conditioned. That's the embarrassing part of this game. Virginia Tech looked like the better conditioned team. How does that even happen? How do they have more energy than us? At the end of the game, they should have been on their backs, gasping for air, not, you know, falling down and having fake timeouts once in a while. I mean, they looked fine. You know, we were falling down as much as they were. Like, how does Miami not go fast on offense in that game from the beginning? Like, you're better conditioned. You work in the Miami Heat. It doesn't make sense. The only explanation is they're spending too much damn time in the IPF. They should tear that goddamn building down, man. You know, they're using it too much. I don't understand how they were getting outwinded by a cold weather team in a game they should have just freaking run 80 plays against them on offense. And they could have, and they didn't. That bothered me. But what didn't bother me is Virginia Tech, I feel like, aside from really one turnover and a few bad passes and a couple of drops, I thought Virginia Tech played a really, really good game and had a really, really good game plan. And I pointed out, obviously, on the show, people know that beforehand, that they were not a great matchup for Miami because Virginia Tech is a power running team, and they can throw the ball enough with a mobile quarterback to cause problems. And Miami's issues, like I said, were run defense. And then in secondary, they weren't disproven in the first 4 games because Miami played nobody in the first 4 games. So I said that was a bad matchup. And then on the flip side, I said Cam Ward against that secondary was an issue because Virginia Tech was one of the worst teams in the country against the run. So like you said, I expected them to come out and run the ball. That's what you said. Come out and run the ball really successfully. I did not disagree, which is troubling that Miami wasn't able to do that. What the good thing is nobody's going to stop Cam Ward. Like, Virginia Tech has the best cornerback tandem, many think, in the ACC. They had no chance against Cam Ward. Like, that guy is unbelievable. And you could look at the film breakdown we did of him from Sunday if you want to look at that and see what he did. I mean, it's unbelievable the things he does. No one will stop him. But Miami's issues obviously are on defense. Stopping the run, question mark. Secondary is a question mark. Like, we knew that before the season. That hasn't changed, and that's okay. When they get Ruben Bain back, if Akeem Messidor is able to get more of a push, Tyler Barron's healthy, like, they will get enough pressure that it's going to be tough for any quarterback to find guys down the field, which was the case the first 4 games, which masked some of the secondary's problems, regardless of them getting PFF bad grades, Pro Football Focus bad grades in the secondary the first 4 games, which we talked about, which means guys were running free and the quarterback just wasn't hitting them. But there's no reason that can't continue. Miami's not playing any great teams the rest of the year. Every team they're playing except for Duke already has a loss. And Duke should have lost to North Carolina, who got slaughtered right the week before by 70 points to whatever, to James Madison or whatever. I mean, Duke's not good. Okay, period. So it's a 1-game season against Louisville, which Louisville didn't look great against Notre Dame. So that's the 1-game season. And what I was saying before is I think Virginia Tech played really well for Virginia Tech. And I think Miami played really poorly. They missed 21 tackles, couldn't run the ball, had mistakes all over the place, 59 yards in penalties. And Miami still won. Miami won playing a bad game, in my opinion, for Miami and what they could be. And Virginia Tech played a really good game for Virginia Tech and what they can be, which shows even when Miami's playing down here with the team they have, and Virginia Tech's playing up here with the team they have, we still beat them. We still beat them, regardless of how you believe that final play came out. We still beat them. And Lance Guidry should not have played a prevent defense totally on that last drive. That was also, at least mix it up. Blitz once. I don't know. Don't rush 3, maybe. But anyway, like, that's a good sign, right? Because that shows us, and Virginia Tech might be a middle-of-the-road ACC team, but it shows us how good Miami can be when it plays well, right? Think about that. When Miami plays well, they slaughter Virginia Tech. They slaughter Cal. They slaughter everyone on the schedule except maybe Louisville. So, I think if Gary was predicting right now, he's going to go with 11 or 12 wins. And I would go with 11 or 12 wins also now. Like, there's nobody on this schedule that scares you. If the 4 ranked ACC teams or receiving votes ACC teams in the AP poll, we don't play them other than Louisville, which is the 5th. And Louisville's now 22nd. We barely play any teams in the top 25 all year now. We don't play Clemson. We don't play SMU. We don't play Pitt. And there's one other ranked team that we don't play. I can't remember which team it was. But schedule looks good. Schedule's favorable, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just so happened to be that way that Florida has a down year. FSU's awful, and we just happen to get a good schedule, which is great. We deserve it. We've had some rough schedules. We've had some rough years. So, like, enjoy it. Fans that are like, oh, our team sucks again, like, whatever. No, man. Like, 5-0, enjoy it. Miami maybe will lose 1 game in the regular season the way things look right now. And that puts them in either the ACC title game or the playoffs, right? Because if it's a 3 or 4-way tie with 1 loss in the ACC and they don't make the ACC title game with 1 loss in the regular season, how do they not make the playoffs being, ranked 8th right now, right? 12 teams go. And I understand that 5 teams are guaranteed spots, but, like, chances are they'll be in there. And if they're in the ACC title game, you got to beat Clemson or whoever to get there, and that's fair. So either way, I'm extremely encouraged by the way things are shaping up, regardless of fans who are so upset that, Virginia Tech could have won that game, probably should have won that game, but Miami found a way in the end to go 5-0. Like, that's important too.
All right, so I feel pretty confident in saying that all this stuff kept Mario Cristobal very busy over the weekend. Like, there's so many things that he's got to look at. I'll start with the conditioning. Like, they spend an awful lot of effort on monitoring the conditioning of their players, and it's very measured how much time they spend in the indoor practice facility, how much time they spend in the heat. It's all designed to team through the season fresh and not have ebbs and flows and maximize the conditioning of your players without wearing them out. Okay. So they put an enormous effort into that. Guys wear devices at practice that measure the different things, their endurance, their speed, all those things. How fast do they run when they're tired? All those. There's a lot of science. Okay, a lot of sports science being utilized in the Miami football program. Let's sum it up like that. So you get into a game like Friday night where you should have an enormous edge in conditioning, and now you don't have that edge. I mean, I'm watching. I'm like, oh my God, what is going and you could just tell just from the drop off in the level of play of the guys at the line of scrimmage. Miami is a team built for the line of scrimmage. The offensive line is struggling enormously to open up holes for the running backs. Everyone's jumping all over Damian Martinez, and I find myself as the Damian Martinez first line of defense every single week. I mean, this is a kid that had a 1,300-yard rushing season last year and averaged 6 yards plus a carry. He's averaging 4 yards a carry here because he's getting a limited number of reps because they're sharing the ball with four backs, 5 backs every game, as they should, because they're all good. So he's getting less touches. He's also not finding a lot of holes. And, maybe he misses a cut here or there. He's not perfect. But the point I'm making is this is a proven college football running back who is not performing at the same level that inspired you to bring him here in the first place. And a large part of the reason is that the offensive line, which is, Mario Cristobal's baby, is not performing at the level that they would have wanted it to perform at. And, Jalen Rivers being out could be a factor for sure. But I think it's a little bit more than that. And they got to figure out pretty quickly what this group of personnel is capable of doing. A lot of inside power runs and just nowhere really for the backs to go. And Virginia Tech showed up with a very good defensive line. And I thought that they really controlled the line of scrimmage for the most part. So the conditioning factor at both lines of scrimmage, possible hydration issues. I thought, you saw Francis Manoa cramping up very early in the game. Very early. Now that he's the toughest guy on the planet. He fought through it. They had a timeout. He's guzzling fluids over there on the sideline and came back in and played the whole game. I mean, phenomenal. And I don't remember seeing any other offensive linemen affected from a hydration standpoint. Maybe from a production standpoint, they had to be enormously tired. It really was a draining heat. But the only one I saw cramping on the offensive side was Francis pretty early. Now on the defensive side, I mean, Barrow was out of the game very early, came back late, but it looked to me like he was struggling with the heat. Might have had some other type of injury too, not sure. Barron was another one that looked like he was struggling a little bit, was performing nowhere near at the level that we've seen from him. And then you're asking a lot of Moten. You're playing Justin Scott a lot, a true freshman. So I saw CJ Clark out there too, but the point I'm making is that you're not getting the same level of play from your defensive tackle position that you might have been getting earlier in the year. And I thought that was a definite factor. But beyond conditioning and the run game, Matt, you mentioned the prevent defense, and at the end of the game, and listen, on September the 16th, I was watching Monday Night Football, and I can't even remember the team now that went into prevent defense. But they allowed the other team to go flying down the field literally in like 30 seconds to score. And I was so outraged. I said, I got to tweet about this. So I grabbed my phone. I went to the CaneSport Twitter, and I tweeted out on September the 16th, when are defensive coordinators going to learn that prevent defense ruins careers? That's how strongly I felt about it. Because you see this every football season. Like you're protecting a lead in the final 2 minutes, and the other team gets the ball, and you just let them do what they want, going all the way up the field, figuring the clock's running, and it'll run out. They'll run out of timeouts, and you're going to play prevent defense and prevent the big play. And you stop rushing the passer. You change the whole dynamics of what worked for you defensively the whole game. Okay, there was one play the other night where the quarterback could have run and didn't, and threw an incomplete pass, where the entire middle of the field was open. And if he had run, probably would have gained about 30 yards. Okay. And then you end up with a scenario where Virginia Tech is throwing the ball into the end zone at the end of the game with a chance to win, and a fluky thing can happen. And Miami was very fortunate the way this one turned out. But, I was kind of shocked because, Lance Guidry loves pressure, and he, And I'm not saying you recklessly send 7 or 8 guys after the quarterback, but they were rushing 3 on a lot of those plays, Matt. And like, there was no pressure on the quarterback at all. He's just sitting there looking around, picking his spots. And Miami's not good enough in the defensive backfield to have guys running around for 4, 5, 6 seconds and letting a quarterback, just find somebody who happens to shed the coverage. And man, I was really disappointed to see that. I thought that was another thing that almost compromised the entire season. Was choosing to go prevent defense and not going, your pass rush, not on Friday night because they only had 2 sacks. And again, I think the Heat had a lot to do with that. But your pass rush has been one of your strengths the whole year. Didn't Miami come into the game, I believe, Matt, leading the nation in sacks, right? Coming into the game?
I think they were number 2, but
they were right there. Yeah. I mean, and they only had 2 sacks in this game for minus 13 yards. I mean, the pass rush had totally disappeared. But that's one of your strengths, is getting after the quarterback. And I was really surprised that they took the approach they did late in the game. I hope they learned from it. And if they're faced with a situation like that later in the year, they don't do the same thing, because it was not effective at all. But the other thing that really was that they gave up 206 yards rushing. And I think this a lot of the same reasons. I think that the guys up front were gassed, and they were not getting penetration. They were not cutting off running lanes. And Virginia Tech had a really good running back, and they were getting gashed a little bit in this game. 206 yards rushing is a lot for the Miami defense this year. So I thought that was a huge impact in the game. And Matt, beyond that, I want to talk about Cam Ward. But before we get to Cam Ward, do you have any other thoughts about some of these things that I've talked about? The conditioning, the hydration issues, the run game on both sides of the ball.
Well, I mean, first of all, Damian Martinez, you make it sound like he's not carrying the ball. He averaged under 15 carries a game last year over 13 games at Oregon State and put up big numbers. He's averaging 11 carries a game here against really bad opponents the first 4 games on defense.
And still has not had
and a bad run defense in Virginia Tech. So, like, you can't say, oh, but he's not getting opportunities. He's getting plenty of opportunities. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, what I'm saying is there's nowhere for him to run.
He's dancing around too much. He's dancing around too much. He's not in the holes hard enough, period. And you see it when the other guys come in. I know fans will say, oh, but they're, A.J. Allen's playing against tired defenses and, whatever. Like, he's not breaking tackles. You look at his yards after contact, it's the worst on the team. There's a reason for that. He needs
Mark Fletcher had 5 carries for 22 yards the other night.
Yeah, I understand.
Jordan Lyle had 2 carries for 2 yards.
No, I'm talking about the whole season. Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
there's nowhere for these guys to run.
The run blocking's not great. I agree. But if you want to look at the, like, I'll pull it up real quick here, the full season, right? Because, if you look at just one game and a guy gets 2 carries, it's hard to say, oh, he sucks, right? I mean,
this was the best,
look at a little bit.
This was the best defense they've played this year. So why would I want to look at Ball State and FAMU?
Virginia Tech had one of the worst run defense, 101st ranked run defense coming.
But they played better. Would you agree they played better than Florida?
Well, did they play better? No, Florida. I think Florida's run defense is better than Virginia Tech's. Personally, I mean, did you think Virginia Tech was so good at run defense that
throw out FAMU, throw out Ball State?
Well, I'm not going to do that math right now, but what I'll tell you is that Jordan Lyle averages 7.6 yards per carry with 31 carries, which is a good enough sample size. A.J. Allen averages 8.4 yards per carry on 17 carries. Mark Fletcher averages 5.5 on 26 carries. And Damian Martinez is at 4.6 on 54 carries. Okay, so you're averaging 1 to 5 yards less per carry every time Damian Martinez is getting the ball than every other back on average so far this season. Right. That's not to say that it's a fair comparison.
I'm doing the math here. Let me stop you for a minute. Okay, in the Florida game, I don't care about Ball State and FAMU. In the Florida game, Damian Martinez averaged 4.3 yards a carry on 15 carries. Mark Fletcher got 7 carries, averaged 3.3. Jordan Lyle got 6 carries, averaged 3.0. And A.J. Allen got 2 carries, averaged 2.5. Okay, That's not good enough. And it's all of them. And it's not that they're bad running backs. They're not getting holes, okay? And the whole fan base is ganging up on Damian Martinez. There's nowhere for these guys to run. In the 2 games against real competition, they were no place with the running game. And that's the reason why it was. I mean, it was the same in the Florida game, and it was the same on Friday night when Fletcher and Martinez each averaged 4.4. Lyle averaged 1.0, and AJ Allen did not have a rushing attempt the other night. So I mean, we're seeing it in the 2 real defenses that they've played, and again, I'm not saying what's a strength or not a strength. They clearly have a problem opening up holes for these running backs. Now, some people think it's scheme. Some people don't like that they're overusing the inside running game. They don't like the splits of the offensive linemen. Listen, I have no idea what to blame for the problem, but Matt, I think you agree, and I know you agree, the problem is there, and it exists. They are struggling against a decent defense to run the football.
I was trying to say before you went off on your tangent,
you didn't want to take the time to look at the numbers. I pulled them up.
Before you went off on your tangent, which is what I usually do.
I pulled up the numbers for you.
So what I was trying to say is before you went
and everybody else, because everybody's trashing Damian Martinez, every message board, all over Twitter, everybody is trashing this kid who is a proven college football running back who can gain 6 yards a carry. He is taking a beating from the fan base. I don't think it's fair. Like, he has nowhere to go. Go ahead.
All I was trying to say is if you want to take one game and say Jordan Lyle averages 1 yard a carry when he has 2 carries, that's fine. What I'm trying to say is you have to take an entirety. The more data points you can gather is better in terms of being able to say, hey, this guy's overperforming, underperforming, or whatever. You take one game, 191-yard carry can skew your entire season if you just look at one game, right? He averaged 80 yards a carry. I mean, he's the greatest running back ever. That's why you don't look at one game.
That's why I'm not looking at that game either. I'm looking at Florida and the Virginia Tech games.
Yeah, 2 of the worst defenses, that you'll find. I mean, Florida's defense is terrible too. You can shake your head. No, Virginia Tech entered this game ranked 101st in run defense. I don't know what you want me to tell you. You're acting like they're this great defense.
And Miami still could not run against them.
Yeah, but I don't know. What's your point? Damian Martinez couldn't run against them.
Big problem blocking at the line of scrimmage.
Oh, well, if that's all you're saying, I agree. I don't understand what you're.
I
feel like you're arguing with me about something. I don't understand what it is, but Damian Martinez has underperformed based on expectations. The other backs have performed better than him in yards per carry, which is what I was trying to say over the whole season. I don't know why you're going crazy over that. And it has to change. And the run blocking has been a problem because as you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, you'll see the run blocking grades are not up to par. There's only one guy who's decent, and that's Zach Carpenter in run blocking grades. So it's not all on the running backs. But at the same time, there are running backs who can make plays on their own. The issue for Damian so far is he hasn't been one of them, right? You'll see yards after contact, he's at the bottom. And that's what this running back room has to do if these guys aren't blocking up front. Like, you have to break tackles and get yards if that's what's going to happen. If they're not going to block and break open holes for you that are easy to run through, you got to create your own room by lowering your head and pushing guys back, by doing what you do, right? Stiff arms, whatever it takes, spin away, go to a different direction where nobody is, whatever it is. You see all the great running backs do it. Damian hasn't been doing it. Damian's been sort of standing in the spot, sort of moving slowly, looking for holes, not there, and he just goes down. And that's the problem he's having. He looks slow because of it. He's not slow, but he looks slow because he's up here instead of just bam. The great running backs, they either see the hole and go, or they recognize there is no hole and they go to the best spot you can go. They don't dance.
They plow.
He's not Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, he's trying to be Le'Veon Bell, but he's not Le'Veon Bell, right? That's the problem. He's not elusive. He's a little too powerful to be dancing like that. He's just got to freaking go, man. And I think if he starts doing that, you're going to see his numbers pick up, his yards after contact pick up. He's dancing too much. That's just my opinion. I know Gary is, going off in Neverland here. And then the other,
I see that he has nowhere to go. Look up his yards after contact last year at Oregon State while we're talking here.
Well, before I do that, I want to point out that the secondary, I just want to real quick touch on that because you mentioned it also. And, Darryl Porter's been the biggest disappointment to me. He's got a 51 cover grade. I know fans say, oh, Pro Football Focus doesn't mean anything. But what they do track fairly well is when you're covering a receiver and they target you and that receiver. And he's given up 17 catches on 23 targets this year, 191 yards, no interceptions, And that was what I was hoping we'd see different, right? Because last year he was great grades in coverage. Nobody can complete a ball on him. They're literally, the last two games are picking on him. They're intentionally throwing at him because they know he can't cover anybody. And that's a real problem. Miami has to put him on receivers he can cover. They're putting him in situations and on guys that he cannot cover. He is not a speedy little twitch cornerback. He's a physical, little bit slower cornerback, and that's okay, but you've got to match him up on that guy in that game. They're doing a huge disservice to him. I mean, it's ridiculous what they're doing. And De'Ani Hill right now has been the best graded cornerback, and he, like, you know, honestly, he wouldn't even be starting if they had some other guys. Like, it is what it is, you know. So in terms, before I get to last year's numbers, let's look at the yards after contact this year, okay? Damian Martinez is 3.11 yards after contact, not real good. Mark Fletcher is 3.5. Cam Ward is 5.5. AJ Allen is 4.5. Jordan Lyles 3.2, which also isn't great. Chris Johnson is 3.67. And so, you know, so I mean, technically Damian Martinez is the lowest, but, you know, he's not that far ahead of Jordan Lyle, or far below Jordan Lyle. Now, last year,
if you're quoting stats that include the FAMU game, the Ball State game, and to a lesser extent the South Florida game, you're not making your proper point, because the two games to look at for stats are Florida and Virginia Tech. That's my opinion.
But they're going to be worse in those games. I don't understand. They're still going to be bad in those games. What do you want me to tell you?
Worse. I know the numbers are going to be worse than what you're quoting. Is my point. They're bad.
So here, yards after contact for Damian Martinez against Florida was 2.7, and against Virginia Tech was 2.8. So what else do you want me to look up?
There you go. Now look up his numbers from Oregon State last year.
Okay, I thought you were trying to compare the other backs
the whole season, and I know that'll include some bad teams, but I mean, we don't have time to look at every single game individually.
So last year, I could do it by game also, but yeah, last year he was at 3.82 yards after contact. Let me look at some of the better games he played against. Utah, he was 2.06. Okay, not good. Washington, 4.23. It's really, really good. At Oregon, 2.69. So he's a little bit hit or miss last year. You know, overall last year though, he's at 3.82 yards after contact. And this year's at 3.1. So he's almost a full yard less per after contact this year than last year. So something's not right. You know, just something's not right. And especially when you're playing bad teams, you should have a better, like, these have been bad run defenses. You should be able to run through these guys, run over these guys, run past these guys. He hasn't been able to, right? So, you know, something's not right there.
What I think I see that's not right is they're not getting holes up front. That's what I see. I think they have a great running back room. I love all these backs.
You do understand yards after contact has nothing to do with holes, right? Like, are you in like some sort of alternate reality?
No, but if you have a hole to begin with, your contact is in a different environment.
So your argument is he's getting swarmed at the line and he has no chance to break a tackle. Not one-on-one. He's never one-on-one.
That's what I'm seeing. Okay? I'm seeing him getting killed and having to try to fight for yards.
Okay.
But, you know, listen, I love Miami's running back room. I think these are all good running backs. I've been saying don't bother ranking them. They don't need a depth chart. Like, these guys are all good. They all can contribute. I was watching one day with Don Solinger, who told me that he thought this running back room was as good as any running back room he had in Miami. And that included Edgerrin James, Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee years. Okay.
Well, then you know what? Let's take out Clinton Portis and put in Willis McGahee. Give someone else a chance, because Damian Martinez has started 5 games, which is half the season essentially, right? Almost. And he hasn't produced. You know, put in Willis McGahee. I got no problem with Willis. I like Willis. Let Clinton rest for a minute.
All right. But I think one thing we would agree on, not that we agree on much, but is that the running game needs to get better.
100%. And by the way, can you imagine how good this offense is going to be if that piece comes together? You know, everyone's like, oh, when Jalen Rivers is back, everything's going to be fixed. Like, that's the magic formula. And Markel Bell, as great as coaches say he's been freaking terrible, man. Terrible. I mean, I watched some of the film of him, and he's just slow as molasses. He doesn't move his feet fast enough. He might be big and strong, man, but these guys in college, like, they're quicker than he is, and they go around him and through him, and he's thrown off balance pretty easily. And, you know, Markel has a very bright future, but it's not this year. So those fans were like, oh, it's going to look so much different when Jalen's back. They're not wrong. Like, Jalen Rivers is one of the top left tackles in the ACC and maybe top 10 or 20 in the country. Like, he's really, really good. So when you go from a guy who's committing penalties and getting beat, too often, to a guy who's that good, like that's going to make a big difference. That is going to make a big difference. So, again, Miami will never tell anybody or let us tell anybody when Jalen's coming back. But that will be something that I think is just as big as Ruben Bain returning. As a matter of fact, I think it's probably a bigger deal than Ruben Bain. I know fans are like, oh my God, Ruben Bain when he's back, the whole defensive line's going to be amazing. The offensive line right now has more problems and depth problems than the defensive line. If you give me a choice, you can have Jalen Rivers or Ruben. I'm taking Jalen Rivers all day long. I'll say Ruben, we can wait a little bit. I know that Elijah Alston hasn't been real good. Okay, I get it. He's a pure pass rusher. He's been asked to essentially be a 3-down, 4-down lineman. And that's not what he is, but they just have some injury problems. I get it. But you just got to have Jalen Rivers back because, the truth is the gap between Alston to Bain, as big as it is, it's a much bigger gap between Bell and Rivers right now. And you've got to get Rivers back. That's so important for this team.
All right, so let's turn our attention to Cam Ward. And listen, he's on national TV the other night. He's universally proclaimed by people all over the country as the leader in the Heisman race. I've heard there was one guy in the press conference after the game this week that called him the best player in college football. I mean, it's a little out of control right now, but all this is good for Miami. Like, you want Cam Ward to let Cam Ward shine this year. You will be positioned to own the transfer portal in future years. But I thought Cam Ward got a little too caught up in it all this week and made some mistakes where he reverted back to problems he's had in the past with turnovers that he has not had to this point at Miami. And just was maybe trying to do a little too much and made a few, wrong decisions and got himself in trouble. But to what Matt said earlier, I mean, this guy is such a unique talent that he was able to overcome it. And he was able to keep bringing them back and keep, he'd forget his mistakes and come back. Some of the plays he made in that game were unbelievable. And like the chest pass where he shed two guys that had him. I mean, they had him. He got away from the first. The other one's hanging on to him, and he has the vision to see.
The other one is named Caleb Spencer. Don't pretend you don't know who that was.
Well, Riley Williams is on the ground. He was in pass protection.
Yeah. Was
on the ground, gets up, and Cam Ward gives him a chest pass like this, and he goes and runs all the way down the 1 yard line. The only bad thing was he didn't score. I would have loved to see him score on that play because he deserved it. It was such a great play. But he shows some speed on that. But, Cam Ward is just performing, other than his mistakes, at an extremely high level. And that allowed Miami to overcome the 3 turnovers. Because usually you turn the ball over 3 times like that against a good team, you're probably not going to win the game in most cases. But they were able to come back, and they were able to win. And one of the stories that we have on the website is a look at Cam Ward's game. And I thought the headline really summed it up. A lot of Superman, little kryptonite as he puts on his cape and leads the Hurricanes to victory. Superman is a little bit of a cliche, no argument. But even with the mistakes he made, he completed 63% of his passes. He had 343 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and he also had 73 rushing yards. And, it was pretty unbelievable. But when I looked at, on 3, he does a weekly Heisman trophy watch where, several of the, guys and, analysts in the On3 network give their top 3 in the Heisman race. And, Cam Ward's stock was down a little bit in that this week. And, Matt, the mistakes that he made in this game might have humanized him a little bit and may have hurt him a little bit in that quest to, win the Heisman. Or, there's a lot of guys that are trying to be candidates this year. None any less than Travis Hunter at Colorado, who's a 2-way superstar. And, Jalen Milroe, obviously, at Alabama, that young wide receiver they have, that's Williams, that's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of guys in college football having good seasons. Do you think Cam Ward, as phenomenal as his stat line reads, as impactful as some of the individual plays that he made in that game, do you think making those bad mistakes in that game on Friday night hurts him from a national perception?
I mean, I don't understand why it matters, but I mean, of course, he's somewhat human. Like, remember, Virginia Tech was the best team, and I said it before the game, the best team that's Miami's faced so far, right? And as I always say, things don't change that much from one year to the next. Like, there's not going to be a player who's just really, really bad who the next year is absolutely off the charts amazing, right? And Cam Ward was really, really good last year at Washington State. And he's better this year, right? But fans who thought that some of the problems he had last year at Washington State with being very careless with the ball, fumbling a lot, were going to just disappear. Like, against better teams, that's when those sort of things show up. And they're still there. And that's okay. Because if you tell Cam Ward not to do those things, he won't also do the play to Riley Williams. He won't also do the plays where he's escaping and throwing back across his body to convert a 3rd and 15 to Jordan Lyler, or 3rd and 7 to Jordan Lyler, or 3rd and 15 to Jacoby George, whatever it is. Those plays will also disappear. You have to be okay. If you have Cam Ward as your quarterback, you have to be okay taking the bad with the good. And I assume when he comes back to Shannon Dawson after fumbling that terrible thing, that was really bad, right? 3rd and 5. He's trying to throw the ball away on the first series to save 2 yards instead of just sticking it in his chest, and you're going to punt either way. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But I assume when he goes to Shannon Dawson's not yelling at him, "You moron, what are you thinking?" It was stupid. Like, nobody in the NFL would do that. Like, that's just something not to do. It's the same thing as don't catch a punt at the 1 yard line, right? You don't do that. You don't throw the ball away when you're being sacked on a 3rd and 5 because you're punting anyway. Take the 2 yard loss, right? Don't do something that's dangerous. But this is a different guy, man. And I hope when he came back to Shannon Dawson, and they didn't show this, obviously, that Shannon Dawson said, keep doing what you're doing. Don't even worry about it. Because that's Cam Ward. Like, Cam Ward takes chances. And I'm glad he does. There's going to be times where it makes you crazy. And yeah, it might cost him losses in the playoffs or to Clemson, but it's not going to cost him losses in the regular season of these teams that we're playing, man. Like, Louisville might be tough. You gift 14 points to Louisville, which really should have been 17 and maybe even 21. You gift that to Louisville? You gift that to Alabama, Ohio State? Like, you're in trouble, okay? I understand that. But Cam Ward is who he is. He's amazing because these are the things he does. And what comes with that is some carelessness. Even that last-second chest pass to Riley Williams, if you watch that play in slow motion, he literally barely saw Riley Williams at the same time he's just throwing it there. There could have been a guy next to Riley Williams that he didn't see because he has 2 guys on him. He basically can see this much of the field to see Riley Williams. There's a guy on his chest, another guy here. For all he knows, it's been 5 seconds since the ball was snapped. There could be a defender right next to Riley Williams the other direction, and that's a touchdown return the other way. Like, you don't know what's going to happen because there was no time for him to process it. It's not a play they've run. It's not a play that's designed. Riley Williams didn't even expect the ball. If you watch the replay, he's standing there with his arms down at his sides. He's not here, throw me the ball, throw me the ball. His arms are at his side, and all of a sudden the ball comes in his direction. He puts his arms up and starts running. He didn't expect it.
Yeah.
But that's a play that won the game. If you get sacked out of field goal range there, I don't know if Miami wins. Dangerous play, careless play. And Miami wins because of it. Dangerous play, careless play, he fumbles, and they give up a touchdown. Like, it's a trade-off. And I'm okay with it because you know what? He got 5 touchdowns with careless play. And he gave up 2-3 turnovers with careless play. I'll take the +2 touchdowns. I'm okay with it.
All you had to do was turn on college football on Saturday and watch like Georgia, Alabama, and the way these teams can score. And the individual plays that they can make too. And when you get into games late in the year against Clemson, which has a really good offense, any of these playoff teams, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, like these are teams that can, get stuff done on offense. And you're going to need Cam Ward being Cam Ward. There's no reason to stifle Cam Ward.
You cannot rein him in. But that's why the run game is so important. like you said, and we're in agreement, Gary. You just think you're arguing with me. We're saying the same thing. If that run blocking doesn't get better, if they don't find a running back, whether he's named Damian Martinez, Willis McGahee, or Clinton Portis, whatever the hell Gary's talking about, if they don't find that guy, and that guy gets 15 to 20 carries in the important games, and they keep shuffling 3 or 4 guys in, trying to find someone who has a rhythm, like find a guy who's your best running back, stick with him. If it's not Damian Martinez, I don't freaking care how much money you're giving Damian Martinez. I don't care that Damian said he's going to the NFL after this year. I want the best running back who hits the hole hard, pushes guys back, makes plays, give that guy the ball 15 to 20 times a game, and that's that. Like, these are coaches. They know who their best running back is. Right now, in my opinion, from what I've seen, Damian Martinez is running very hesitantly and without confidence, and he seems a little upset, honestly. He seems disheartened. If you look at his face and his body language, like, I'm not a body language expert, but I know what I look like when I'm upset and depressed. He looks like he has Matt Shodell body language on the field after every carry because he had planned to go to the NFL after this year, and he's having some pretty bad results that make him late round draft pick. He thought he was one in the first round. So, like, imagine a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old who thought they were going to be a first rounder by coming to Miami, and after 5 games, they are starting to realize I may not only be a mid-round to late round pick, but I may have to go back to college and do my trigonometry class and do my freaking social sciences class. Like, well, no, man, that's not for me.
If he's done his work in the classroom up to this point, he could take one bogus class and be enrolled and meet the, you know.
That's not my point. My point is he seems downtrodden and not like, you know, let's go. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you get that energy feeling from even AJ Allen, Mark Fletcher. Like, when those guys run, it's with a purpose. Whether they run into a wall and they're knocked down at the line of scrimmage, they're running with a purpose. You see Damian and he's like hesitating and just gets tackled. Like, I just want someone who attacks. Like, attack. Eventually the hole's going to be there when you attack. You know, if you wait too long, the hole's gone. And Damian's waiting too long. You can shake your head no all you want. Damian's waiting too damn long, looking for holes that aren't there.
Too hard on this kid. That's just
I'm not being hard. That's what everyone sees. Yeah, why can't I tell the truth?
But I don't.
Why can't I tell the truth? You think he's run so well, Gary? Tell the truth.
He runs plenty hard. I think he's plenty tough. I think he does a great job in pass protection.
Does a great job in pass protection, that's for sure.
And he's done a very good job in the passing game. He's had some big gains catching the ball. He's a very good player. He's a proven college football running back, and I think people are being way too hard on him because he's not getting the results. I personally, like I said, do not think it's his fault by himself. We'll see what happens. I think hopefully they'll get these blocking issues straightened out.
Here's the point. Like you said, he's not getting the job done. You literally in the same sentence a few minutes ago said Don Solinger said, they have 4 or 5 NFL running backs. If you literally just said he's not getting the job done, and they have 3 other NFL level running backs, why are you defending him? Like, get the guy in there.
Aren't doing any better in the common denominator.
You're wrong. I literally gave you their stats. They're averaging more yards. They're averaging more yards per carry and more yards after contact. Every one of them.
1-yard run late in the game at South Florida.
It's not one guy. It's all 4. 4 of them.
I mean, I love Jordan Lyle.
3 of them.
But I mean, he had a 91-yard run late in the 4th quarter of garbage time against South Florida. I'm sorry that now he will have plenty in real competitive moments too. He's a great running back. You know, he's Willis McGahee and is going to be. But the point I'm making is that they're all good backs. None of them against good competition or even average competition, which you're saying Florida and Virginia Tech are from a run defense standpoint. None of them are getting any room to run. They're all have the same stats. So, the common denominator is the run blocking. That's, I don't want to beat it.
Here's the real biggest problem. Here's the real biggest problem for Damian is he's had 1 run of over 17 yards the whole season. Like that's just not how you win games with a run. There's no explosion there.
I agree, but I'm not blaming him. All right. We'll talk about, we have a few other things to talk about today, but let me first talk to you guys a little bit about CaneSport, our sponsor of the day. Like I've been saying, the ultimate spot for all you Hurricane fans to go to get your gear. Let's take a look real quick.
Welcome to CaneSport. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
Doesn't matter what you need: t-shirts, jerseys, hats, polos, flags, decals, Canes item you want, you will find it at CaneSwear. They have sizes for men, women, kids, babies. They will even dress up your dog. You want your dog to be showing off to you, go to CaneSwear. They'll give you something to put on your dog. They even have tailgate stuff, tents, tables, whatever you need, you will find at CaneSwear at their store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie. Or you could shop them 24/7, 365 at caneswear.com. So visit the store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or go to caneswear.com for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. All right, Matt, we've got a few other things on the website today. We sent you to the lab. Did Matt come up with something interesting for people to read on this Monday morning? And you decided to focus on what is ahead for the Hurricanes. You say the real Hurricanes will be revealed in good time. You point out that the schedule is not very, very difficult. Give us a quick summation of your thoughts coming out of the lab in writing the column that's on the website today.
Yeah, well, look, a lot of people feel confused because this Miami team, as we know, has been a little schizophrenic after the first 4 games, having the struggles they did against Virginia Tech, right? A lot of people expect them to just roll over Virginia Tech like they do everybody else. So first ACC game, near loss at home, fans freak out. I get it, but everyone always overreacts, underreacts. That's just the nature of our lives in today's society. It was not an AI event. It was a real life event, and it didn't go as planned. And that's okay. It happens. It's why we play football games, right? So I just decided to take a look at, when will we know what the real Miami is, right? Because fans right now are confused. What is the real Miami? Is the real Miami the team that just rolled over 4 really bad teams that all have 2 or more losses or just are awful in the first 4 games? Or is the real Miami the team that barely beat a middle of the road, most people think, Virginia Tech team? The truth is we don't necessarily know yet. I think I know what Miami has. I think that they're better than what we showed against Virginia Tech. Like, that's my opinion. I think that Miami is the best team in the ACC. That's my opinion. But this team has to show it, And I thought that they were outcoached against Virginia Tech. I think the coaching, whatever it is, they need to be better than what we saw in every level against Virginia Tech, or we're going to be having these conversations the whole rest of the year. It'll be a close game at Cal. It'll be a close game. Remember that 10-0 start when they were winning close games and it was a mirage. That's not what I want to see. What this team needs to do is roll over guys, like roll past Cal, right? Show, hey, we're mad off this Virginia Tech game. That was not us. We're not a team that misses 21 tackles. That has our 2 best defenders, Francisco Mamagoa and Mish Powell, look awful and out of place and out of sorts. We're better than that. And if they don't show that starting this Saturday, that will tell us something else. Every game is a little piece to the puzzle to say, hey, this is what we actually are. And every week's different. You couldn't think that everything's great and then have a really bad game. That happens. And you could have some really bad games and play great one game too. So that's how college football goes. But anyway, so I looked at, I wrote about that, obviously. And then I also looked at the teams left on the schedule and what they've done, because every team left on the schedule already has lost a game 5 games in, except for Duke, which we know Duke is not going to be good. I mean, if I need to explain that on the show, just go watch a different podcast. I don't care.
5-0, man. Manny's having cigar smoking parties in the locker room after games.
So anyway, Miami, I was looking at Bally's. Bally's had Miami initially as a 6.5 point underdog at Louisville. Now they're a 6.5 point favorite at Louisville. Obviously, that game hasn't happened yet. Louisville just lost to Notre Dame, but Louisville is a really, really good team. I watched a lot of that game against Notre Dame. They have, really good speed on the perimeter, good defense. I know they didn't show it necessarily against Notre Dame, and I think their quarterback Schaff plays better than what he showed also. I think he's really good. And if Miami secondary is going to be getting lit up, it'll be in that game, in my opinion, because that they have the receivers that can get open quickly. So that's the huge game. And then the other ones are just they're just like whatevers, you know. I mean, I already sort of touched on this. I'm not going to rehash it, but I mean, the Clemson and Louisville are the only two ACC teams that are ranked in the top 25, and we only play one of them, right? And that's the 22nd ranked team. And then the other 3 teams that are receiving votes in the ACC, including SMU, which honestly is the Miami Hurricanes minor league team, right? So not only are the Miami Hurricanes ranked in the top 10, but their minor league team is even receiving votes. Like, that's how amazing Miami is.
Corey Harvey make a sack last night.
I mean, Rashard Smith, it's all those guys. It's like watching Miami from last year, you know.
John Smith's there, yeah.
They're receiving votes. Their team is receiving votes. Yeah. But anyway, Miami's road is pretty easy. The key is Miami can't fall into this same trap that I think they fell into after these first 4 games, which is, oh, we're so good. You know, we're so good. We're amazing. Whenever people start feeling good about themselves, they always falter, which is why I personally always feel really bad about myself. I find that really is helpful. If Miami could take on that approach and just realize what a big loser they are, how annoying they are to everybody out there in the world. Their voice has this annoying New York accent. And honestly, the things that come out of their mouth are not well thought out and idiotic. If they realize all of that, then they probably will be on the path to getting a lot better. You know, some people can't improve. It's too old. They're too old. It's too late for them. Miami's a bunch of young guys. They need to get better. They need to get better. They need to realize we're not so good. These rankings, like I said before the season, remember I was touching on how before the season, I actually said Florida State's not very good. I said we did a whole column on it, how Florida State's ranked. They were ranked in the top 10 or 15 by most people before the season. I said that's only because of what they did last year. Because you know what? Pollsters are morons. They watch one team. Pollsters cover a team, right? Gary and I cover Miami. If we're asked to do a top 25 poll, we're looking at records, scores, and whatever else is doing from the week before. Before the season, these idiots are just looking at what happened the year before. Like, oh, who did well the year before? They have this many starters back. Let's just rank them here. There's no deeper dive than that. You know, these are just schmucks like us who are doing these votes. Not the coaches poll, but the AP poll, for instance, right? And, you know, honestly, the coaches poll, they delegate it to other people anyway. So even that poll. So these polls are fake, just like the election. Just like the election was made up the results. That's not true. I don't think it's true. I don't know what you guys believe out there. But these polls are made up, okay? Unlike the actual election results, which I believe are real. These polls are made up by a bunch of schmucks. And if Miami starts believing they're a top 10 team, they will not wind up in the playoffs, okay? The worst thing that could ever happen to any team is starting to think they're really good. And I'm hoping that Miami realizes they're not good enough. That's why I said at the beginning of this show that this is the best thing that could have happened. Because a slap back to reality, like with your kids, you don't slap your kids, okay? I don't slap my kids. Maybe you do, whatever. But that slap back to reality, if you just use it in real life, like your child, right? If your child thinks, you know, they can get away with anything and they're the smartest and they're the best and whatever, they tend to, like, not really behave well in general. Other children hate them, okay? I'm talking from personal experience, but in general. And when you sit that child down and you say, listen, you know, you're annoying everybody because of this, this, and this. You need to get your head out of the clouds. You need to start coming home right from school and studying. Your grades suck, whatever it is. They get upset, and then they get much more focused. You know, and I know those of you out there that have children, you realize that. When you sit a kid down and you say to them, listen, you know, you got to focus, you got to do this, for at least a short period of time, they are much better at whatever that area is that you are asking them to focus on because they realize that you recognize that they have that problem. And from the first 4 games this year, that Miami team did not have a problem where you could sit them down and say, listen, look at this. You guys need to do this and that, or it's over. Now, Miami coaches have the opportunity to clearly say, we suck, and here's why, and you guys need to focus, and you need to practice harder, and you need to do this and that and the other thing, because otherwise our season's over. And that's a huge message. That's why this was the best thing that could have happened. Any fans who are upset about this outcome should be slapped. Just like your children who don't behave. No, do not slap children. That was a joke. Do not slap your children. But like it's literally, you need to be brought back to earth sometimes. These are 18 to 20-year-olds and one 35-year-old on this team, you know? Like, they need to have that lesson, and they need to have an adult, not the 35-year-old on the team, but an actual real adult like Mario Cristobal, explaining to them, sitting them down, here's the problem. Here's what you need to do to fix it, right? And get them all pushing in the same direction, just like our country, right? Democrats, Republicans, we're all together pushing in the same direction, right, Gary?
Right.
We're like the Al Golden football teams, our country right now. Mario has to make sure that doesn't happen to this team. Bring them together, push in the same direction, focus, and bomb our enemies. That's all.
I was watching Al Golden yesterday, defensive coordinator. He does a pretty decent job, man. He's a lot like Lance Guidry, very aggressive, a lot of blitzing, a lot of pressure. I liked what I saw.
We're on for an hour already. Nobody's listening. Let's go.
Yeah, we will. And by the way, that 35-year-old caught another touchdown pass in the last game.
I know. Anyway. I love that. Listen, Cam McCormick. I mean, I people probably remember last year that he got upset when I called him a blocking tight end. He's like, I'm a receiving tight end. Apparently he is. He has 2 catches and 2 touchdowns.
On you, Matt Shodell.
He's proven me wrong. I'm glad I was able to inspire him to become one of the top receiving tight ends in the country. Yeah. You can thank me later, Cam.
Yep. And when Damian Martinez finally busts out and has a big game, I'll
Listen,
be leading.
You know what's crazy? I was the one who was in the camp with you saying I thought this was the game he was going to bust out. I'm like, this has to be the game. Like, they need to run. Virginia has a great secondary. They can't stop the run. I couldn't believe. If I was betting, and look, people know I said take the under on the 19. I'm not a betting guy, but it was obvious, right? Virginia Tech, everyone thought sucked. Everyone thought Miami was the best. I said, sell stock high, buy stock low. I said, you do not want to go anywhere over that 19 line. But when it comes to Damian Martinez, I would have said take the over on 100 yards. Like, I was sure that game he was going to be breaking out, which is why I'm so disappointed. And people probably noticed that I'm bashing him a little bit this morning. Maybe that's unfair. But I was so disappointed. It was my disappointment
out there, and you want them to be, blowing you up all over the comments and stuff, and talking about how great you are. So you're feeding the beast.
No, people are going to be complaining. But it's honestly a reflection of my disappointment in him and his production, because when things don't go the way I think they should, based on what I've seen of him in the past and how he's run, and a Virginia Tech's defense that I saw on film, I'm like, it's the perfect match. Like, how do you not get 100 yards? So maybe I'm a little frustrated / disappointed with his performance, and maybe that's what caused my diatribe about replacing him with Milos McGahee. But that's just how I feel. You guys out there know I just say it how it is. I don't care if I piss people off.
We're on the same wavelength. I just blame the offensive line. All right. Couple recruiting stories on the website today. We got a story with a 2026 offensive tackle from Naples, Benjamin Corhai. His recruitment is getting rolling with Miami. We bring you guys an update on him. There's a 2028, believe it or not, quarterback by the name of Neiman Lawrence, who was in the recruiting section at the game Friday. He's from Ransom Everglades High School. He's hoping to be a Miami quarterback one day. So you could check out an update on him. We also have an update inside the lines with 4-star Miami target Kinye Pepe. Azubi Charles went inside the lines with him to give you guys an inside look on his life and also what he's thinking. So make sure you check that out as well, and several other recruiting stories from over the weekend to keep you guys who are recruitniks give you your fix on Miami recruiting. If you like this show somehow, despite Matt Shodell, and you like this channel, please hit your subscribe and like buttons. It does help us with the algorithms at YouTube and growing our audience. And if you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, no better time than now. Come join our great community of fans. The message boards are rocking. Everybody is really excited, just like we like arguing with each other every day. All the fans argue with each other every day. And it's just one big happy family. We urge you to become a part of it by coming over to CaneSport.com and getting yourself a subscription. Beyond that, we thank you so much for starting out your day with us this morning. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We will see you next time, everybody.